We're living in a world that is aging fast, and we have more technology than ever that's supposed to help us all live longer, better lives. But here's the thing, are we even designing it correctly? Let's dive in.
So let's start with just one number, 16%. By the year 2050, that's the chunk of the entire world's population that will be over the age of 65. We're talking more than 1.5 billion people. That creates this absolutely massive demand for tech that can support health, connection, and, just living independently.
And that leads us to the most important question of all. With this giant market and this very real human need, you would think we'd be experts at this by now, wouldn't you? But what if the entire way we think about tech for seniors is built on a really shaky, flawed idea? I mean, think about it this way. In the world of marketing, it would be completely absurd, right? To treat a high school kid and a mid-career professional as the same customer. Their needs, their skills, their wants, they're just worlds apart. And yet, when it comes to technology, we so often just lump everyone over 65 into one giant bucket called older adults. And as we're about to see, that's a huge, huge mistake. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at a critical blind spot in the tech world. Then, we'll introduce a new way of seeing things that could fix it. We'll get into the what and the how of tech use for different ages, and then we'll wrap up with what this means for all of our futures. So let's kick things off with the core problem. For years, the people developing our tech have had this massive blind spot, and it's led to a whole lot of products that just don't work for the very people they're supposed to be helping. This quote from the research we're breaking down today really gets right to the heart of it. Most studies just treat older adults like they're all the same, and that leaves this giant gap in what we actually know. The researchers behind this paper saw that gap and decided it was time to fill it. And this brings us to what we can call the homogeneous group fallacy. It's basically this lazy assumption that a 65-year-old who might still be working, maybe even running marathons, has the exact same tech needs as a 90-year-old who needs long-term care. This fallacy just leads to these one-size-fits-all solutions that, in the end, don't really fit anyone particularly well. So if that's the blind spot, how do we fix it? Well, the research we're looking at offers a really powerful new lens that completely changes the game. And this is what makes it so different. The study makes a person's age the main way of looking at the data. By going back and reviewing decades of research through this specific lens, it starts to uncover all these patterns that were basically invisible before. And believe me, this was some serious work. The researchers started with nearly 700 articles and carefully sifted through them all to pull together the findings from 81 of the absolute best studies out there. So this is a really deep, evidence-based analysis. And to do this, they broke things down into 3 key groups. First, you've got the young old, from 60 to 74. These folks are often still active and very independent. Second, the old, who are 75 and up and might be facing more health issues. And third, you have the oldest old, who are 85 and over and often need more consistent care. Okay, now we're getting to the really good stuff, the core findings. Let's start with the what. The research shows that these different groups don't just use technology a little differently, they actually have preferences for totally different kinds of tools, all based on where they are in life. Take a look at health and well-being. You can see this really clear shift in priorities. The young old are all about being proactive. They're using fitness apps, extra gaming. But as you move to the old and oldest old, the focus totally shifts to management and support, with things like diagnostic tools and essential assistive tech for just getting through the day. And we see the exact same pattern when it comes to staying connected. Sure, everyone uses mobile phones and social media, but the reason why they use it changes. The young old, who are pretty comfortable with this stuff, use social media creatively, with videos and emojis. For the old, those same platforms become a vital lifeline, a way to volunteer, join community groups, and fight off social isolation. This one also highlights a fascinating difference in goals. Is it about autonomy or is it about safety? The young old are pretty open to complex, new tech that promises them more independence, like robots or self-driving cars. But the oldest old, they value passive support systems, like safety sensors that work in the background. And smart speakers, well, pretty much everyone likes those, thanks to that simple voice interface. So here's the bottom line, all laid out. We see these very distinct preferences for each group, plus a few tools that pretty much everybody finds useful. The big takeaway is that this isn't one single market for seniors. It's at least 3 very different ones.
But the study's second major finding is just as powerful. It's not just about what technology people use, it's also about how they use it. Even when we're talking about the exact same device, the motivations for using it and the barriers to using it can be completely different. Let's look at the why. For the young old, technology is often a tool for a more active, engaged lifestyle. It's about staying independent, managing their health proactively, and finding new ways to have fun. But for the old and oldest old, the motivation shifts in a big way. Tech becomes a necessary support system for the most fundamental needs, dealing with health issues, staying connected to family, and just being safe. The roadblocks change too. Sure, the young old might worry about data privacy or find a new app a little confusing, but they want the benefits, so they're often motivated to push through. For the older groups, the barriers are just higher. Physical or cognitive limitations can make things really difficult. Lower digital literacy can create a lot of anxiety. And there's a very real fear of becoming dependent on a machine. Some even resist tech that feels too impersonal. And all of that directly impacts how they actually interact with tech. The young old use a whole ecosystem of different devices and apps. The oldest old, they tend to favor simpler interfaces, basic phones, texts, voice commands. Think about it. For a 68-year-old, a robot might be a really cool tool for independence. But for a 90-year-old, it can feel like a cold, poor substitute for a human caregiver. And that difference changes everything. So, this all brings us to the big payoff. Now that we understand the what and the how, what does this research actually mean for the real world? Why does this matter for tech companies, for our governments, and really for all of us? Well, if you're in the business of making tech, the message could not be clearer. Stop designing for seniors. It's a useless category. Start designing for a 68-year-old, an 82-year-old, and a 90-year-old. That means you need tailored marketing, specific training for each group, and interfaces that are actually built for the right user. And for policymakers, this research is basically an action plan. Governments can create real incentives for companies that develop truly age-friendly tech. They absolutely must strengthen privacy laws to protect vulnerable users, especially in that oldest old cohort. And critically, they can fund digital literacy programs and encourage co-creation, where older adults are actually in the room helping design the tools that are meant for them. And for society as a whole, this is really a blueprint for a better future. Using this kind of cohort-based approach means we can build technology that doesn't just help people live longer, but actually enhances their quality of life, reduces loneliness, and helps everyone feel a real sense of belonging. So what's the big takeaway here? This research gives us two incredibly powerful new ways to think about this stuff. Technology affinity, that's the what, and usage patterns, that's the how. Understanding both of those is the absolute key to designing tech that truly actually works. And all of this leaves us with one final big thought. Understanding these differences isn't just some academic exercise. It forces us all to ask a really fundamental question about the tools we're creating for our aging world. Are we simply building technology to make life longer, or are we thoughtfully and carefully designing it to make sure that longer life is also a better, more connected, and more dignified one?